Hey everyone, it's Colin. How's it going? In late October 2016, Apple announced new MacBook Pros. And creative professionals normally would be excited about this, but it actually caused them to get upset. So what's going on? Creative professionals are generally going to be defined as people like photographers, video editors, audio engineers, musicians, graphic designers, and to kind of a peripheral extent, people like software developers as well. And they've been Apple's kind of core audience for quite a while. They've been some of the most loyal customers of Apple for the Mac products for decades now. They've really kind of been with Apple ever since the Mac came out in the mid-1980s. So they are a very vocal force in the Apple community. And generally, they help drive innovation with Apple because they're the ones who need the most power, the best features, the newest technologies in order to help further their craft and make their jobs faster and easier. So when they talk, people tend to listen to some extent or another. So in late October 2016, Apple announced brand new MacBook Pros, both the 13 and 15-inch models. And these have generally been very popular amongst these creative professionals for when they need mobile computing power. But the overall sentiment after that presentation was not the overall kind of expected happiness from these people for brand new machines. There was actually quite a bit of concern and to some extent some backlash. There are three reasons why I think this is, so let's go through them. First, there was some concern about the new computers themselves. On paper, they're a fantastic new machine. They're thinner, they're lighter, they take up less space yet have the same screen size. The screens themselves are much higher quality, better color reproduction. The machines are a bit faster, they've got faster storage, larger storage options. Also, they feature a new technology called the Touch Bar. It's an OLED strip that sits across the top of the keyboard, and it's fully programmable with soft touch buttons so they can display different things based on what application you're in and what function you're using. So, some pretty innovative technology there. But professionals tended to kind of pan the new machines. I mean, yeah, they looked really good, but in some ways, to them, they were actually a step back from the previous models. This is largely due to removing legacy ports from those computers. The new MacBook Pros only come with USB Type-C/Thunderbolt 3 ports and an audio jack. That's it. So the older Thunderbolt ports, regular USB Type-A ports like you're used to are gone on the new machines, plus the HDMI port and the SD card reader. And the SD card reader is actually something that people were especially vocal about. And I can understand because I use it in my computer all the time when I need to import footage. So all of these older ports went away, and now you're left having to use dongles and adapters for most stuff that you may want to use with the computers. USB Type-C, Thunderbolt 3 hasn't really taken over yet. And so that's caused quite a bit of concern because instead of just being able to plug everything straight into the computer and having a very simple, clean type of organized interface, now you've just got this wiring rat's nest all over the place. Apple, to their credit, did seem to listen to some of these people. They haven't changed the design of the computers, but they actually did drop the price on all of the adapters and dongles that they sell for a period of time. I think in some ways to kind of soften the blow and maybe just give a little bit back to show that maybe they care. The other thing, the second thing about that presentation that kind of rubbed people the wrong way was actually the price of the new computers. The price went up. Not a small amount, a substantial amount. The 13-inch models start at $1,500, but they don't include that touch bar feature. The 15-inch models which are some of the more popular ones, used to start at $1,800, but now they go for well over $2,000. It's like a $500-something price increase. And considering the performance of the machines didn't really go up that much, the touch bar is really the only compelling new feature, and people are kind of having a hard time justifying $500 just for that, plus the overall thinner, lighter experience. That whole thinner, lighter experience, given the new price tags, has also kind of rubbed people the wrong way, at least the creative professionals, in that it limits the performance and expandability of the machines. Of course, the RAM in these computers has not been upgradable for several years, and now the storage is soldered to the logic boards as well, so you'll never be able to upgrade that. But it's that amount of RAM that people are concerned with. They top out at 16 gigabytes. And a lot of people are asking for 32. There are people who do 4K video editing on the go, or really involved development or creative processes where 32 gig of RAM would help them. But Apple doesn't offer it because in order to do so, it would have a major detrimental effect on battery life. They could put a bigger battery in, but then that would affect the thin and light aspect of the computer. So creative pros are disappointed and frustrated with the fact that Apple chose to prioritize the thin and light aspects. To some of them, they say it's really just more of a cosmetic thing than anything, over the actual functionality and horsepower of the computer. The third thing from that presentation that really kind of rubbed people the wrong way was actually what Apple didn't talk about, and that was the rest of the Mac lineup. The iMac is about a year old. It could be due for a refresh, but Apple didn't mention it. The Mac Mini, 2 years old without any sort of updates. Apple didn't mention it. And perhaps the big one, the Mac Pro, 3 years old. It was released in December 2013. It hasn't received any sort of updates or price cuts since then. And that's led a lot of people to think that Apple is kind of getting out of the desktop market. Now, I don't know how much truth there is to that, but there may be a little bit of evidence in that the PC overall marketplace, while sales have been shrinking, of the people who do buy computers, laptops continue to become more and more popular over desktops. Now, will Apple get rid of its desktop lineup entirely? I don't think so, but the fact that the Mac Pro has gone on for 3 years without Apple saying a word about it, really, well, some creative pros think that speaks volumes. And you know, I can kind of understand that. I wouldn't want to drop the thousands of dollars that a machine like that costs on 3-year-old technology. So we're seeing creative pros who need as much horsepower as they can get. They prefer to use the Mac, but a laptop won't cut it for them. They've got the money, they want to spend it on a compelling machine, but Apple simply doesn't sell it. And so some of them are getting tired of waiting, and they're jumping ship and going to Windows, and they're saving some money in the process. There are fewer things that the Mac does uniquely compared to Windows, at least when it comes to the applications that are available. You know, it used to be that if you needed to run certain programs, certain types of programs, the Mac had the best selection of it. But now things have kind of started to come into parity, and at least for my own purposes, for video editing, the thing that keeps me tied to the Mac is Final Cut Pro. I just happen to like it as a video editing package better than Creative Suite or Avid or anything else like that. And a lot of people are saying, you know what, I use Premiere anyway, so they're just switching to Windows. There are plenty of creative pros who are dedicated and sticking with the Mac platform. And all of the concern and frustration and anger that I've seen over the last, month, I'm filming this about a month after those MacBooks were announced, you know, it doesn't really seem to be going away all that quickly. Granted, the internet can be kind of an echo chamber, but typically when new machines come out that people get frustrated with, because Apple has done this before, where they've taken old technology away and said, well, you know what, that old technology is dead and we don't want to support it anymore and this way is the future, deal with it. Generally, people kind of get over that in fairly quick order, but this time it's taking a bit longer. Some people are even going so far as to saying that Apple is no longer committed to the Mac. It's dead. They want to kill it. Granted, there has been some kind of anecdotal evidence that suggests maybe Apple is refocusing its priorities, such as not making monitors themselves anymore. There are reports that Apple has killed off its wireless router division, reassigned those engineers. But, I think the biggest problem that Apple has is this, and it's communication. Apple has been secretive for a long time. We know this. They don't talk about what's coming up, at least in terms of specific things, right? They don't say in 6 months we're going to launch this new product, it's going to do these things. That's fairly rare for them. They play the cards close to the vest. But I think there is a difference between being secretive and simply being arrogant and not communicating at all. And I think they're heading a little bit more towards that other extreme, in that it would be very simple for them to issue a statement saying, look, we are committed to the Mac. Creative Pros, we know you are some of our loyal followers for a very long time, and we do still care about you. We do still want to come out with products that you are asking for. We can't give you specifics, but just hang in there. We've got something for you. That's all they really have to say. Because right now their silence is really kind of making people think that the MacBook Pro is Apple's solution for this. Because Apple has gone so long without refreshing like the Mac Pro, and the iMac has, as time gone on, kind of become less and less appealing to creative pros to use. I think it's really simple for Apple to just say, you know what, yes, we're going to continue to do this. Or maybe they say, no, you know what we are kind of suggesting in that presentation by showing a MacBook Pro with two 5K monitors attached and an external drive array and all these peripherals, and showing that this is a really good video editing solution, that's what we think you should be doing. We are moving in a more mobile direction, and we think that's the way you should go. One way or another, I think they just need to communicate as to what they think the future is. Even in non-specific terms would be fine. Just something, Apple, just say something. These are all really, really hot button issues amongst the creative pros because, like I said, they've been not only the most loyal, but they're also the most vocal. I think the best way that I've heard people explain why creative professionals are so passionate about this, why they're so vocal and angry about it, isn't so much that they don't care. It is actually because they care. They care so much. It's a big part of their lives. They identify as Mac users, almost to the point where it's a religion to them, for better or for worse. So Apple, I think, really needs to kind of reassess. Yes, they are a very consumer product focused company in terms of mass market things like iPhones, iPads. They want to sell to the most people who can buy. But I think they'd be doing themselves and some of their loyal followers a great disservice if they start to cut out other sections of their market. We know they've got the money to be able to continue development on some of these more niche products. I don't think it's as simple as profit and loss, what makes the most profit on a computer, and cut out the stuff that doesn't make as much profit. But, it is frustrating, and I think just some sort of indication, one way or another, as to where Apple's going would be greatly appreciated. So I'm curious as to your thoughts. What do you think about this whole issue? Are you a diehard Mac user? Are you a fellow creative professional? Have you been on the platform for a long time? Have you just recently switched to it? Do you think Apple's headed in the right direction? Do you see a problem with their communication or lack thereof? And also, what do you think about the new MacBook Pros? Is the whole concern about them overblown? Or is there some merit to people being frustrated and upset that they removed things like the SD card slot? Be sure to shout all those comments out down below. Also, as always, I'm curious about suggestions for future podcast topics, so be sure to send those my way as well. If you like the video, I'd appreciate a thumbs up. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at thisdoesnotcomp. And as always, thanks for watching.